It's easy to get caught up in the daily swings of crypto life, the news, the markets. China's banning Bitcoin. China's not banning Bitcoin. We're up, we're down. It's kind of maddening, but as you know on this channel, I like to zoom out. So what I want to do in this video is talk about some of the real world use cases for crypto that have evolved over the last couple years. These are things that have kind of proven themselves or are on their way to proving themselves, but they're things I see as long-term uses for crypto. These aren't things that are going away. But first, I thought it would be fun to look at archive.org for CoinMarketCap. If you don't know, this is a website that archives old copies of a website, and we're going to look at it from 4 years ago just to show you how much actually changes. So this one is from February 14th, 2014, and you can see some of the top names are still there. We got Bitcoin, Ripple, Litecoin, but then there's so many that have faded away into obscurity. Peercoin was super hyped at one time. Dogecoin is still there, Next or NXT, Mastercoin, Namecoin. A bunch of these names have just completely fallen off the charts entirely, and that's because they don't have a robust use case. At this time, basically everything was just a clone of Bitcoin. There wasn't much novel use for it going on, and today we're in a much more mature market where the good projects are rising to the top. And with those good projects are solid use cases that are going to be around for a long time. And I think the phase we're in with crypto comes to this quote we have right here from Arthur Conan Doyle. It says, "Once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth." And I like this quote because I think that's where we are today. Is we have so many ideas and so many projects for using blockchain technologies. And over the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot of these fade away. We're going to be eliminating the impossible. And then what remains is the truth. These are the use cases that are going to be around for maybe forever. So there are certainly more use cases that are going to evolve over time that I'm not going to talk about necessarily here, but these are the ones that I see just for today and looking back over the last couple of years. These are robust. These are going to stick around. They're not going anywhere. The first use case is crypto as a speculative investment. Duh, isn't that pretty much what we're all doing right now? It kind of is. But the very fact that we can even do this is very novel, and it was only enabled by Satoshi in 2008 creating this innovation. There's really nowhere else that you can make these kinds of speculative investments that have the same sort of returns or the same type of longevity to them. Probably the closest analogy would be to investing in penny stocks if we're really talking about hugely speculative investments. But even penny stocks with these tiny little companies, those can go away completely. You get delisted from the markets and then you can't invest in those things anymore. They're gone. But in crypto, as long as there are just a few miners out there willing to support the network, that network is going to stick around. And we even have things like decentralized exchanges coming around. So even if it gets delisted from all of the major exchanges, there's still going to be these decentralized exchanges out there that you can still invest and speculate on whatever you want for as long as you want. There's no better example of this than good old BitConnect, which was, abandoned by the company. It was outed as a complete Ponzi scheme, completely discredited. No one really would have any good reason to invest in it other than as a speculative investment, and people are still doing that. Over the last week, we saw BitConnect jump from $2 to $4. Why? Speculation. That's it. That's the only reason. But hey, if that's what you want to do, crypto's there for you. You can go buy BitConnect. Don't do that, by the way. The second use case that is not going away is crypto as a store of value. People talk about this all the time, and it gets brought up whenever people make comparisons between Bitcoin and gold, the store of value argument. And I think the point that people miss when they talk about store of value or they criticize store of value, they say, how could this be a store of value if the volatility is so high, it can go, so high and so low and fluctuate so wildly. But what they're missing is that crypto is a novel way to hold that store of value. There's no other way that outside of any institution, you can kind of just hold your money on your own other than taking US dollars and burying them in the backyard or something like that. They miss the point that crypto is outside of the institutions. It's not reliant on any bank account or any third party. It's completely owned by you and controlled by you. And traded by you. And it can be stored a lot of different ways. You can store it on, a mobile app on your phone. You can store it on an app on your computer. You can even, if you're willing to memorize a 24-word seed, store as much money as you want solely in your brain. That's crazy. There's nothing else out there that can do this. It's completely novel to crypto, and it's not going away. The third use case that's not going away is gambling. If you weren't around back in the day, one of the first decentralized apps out there was an app called Satoshi Dice, which let you gamble with your Bitcoins. This was at a time when fees were so low that it was trivially easy to just do tons of tiny little payments all over the place. And so Satoshi Dice was one of the most popular actual uses for Bitcoin. Then we fast forward to today, and Satoshi Dice is no longer running on Bitcoin. It runs on Bitcoin Cash. And then if you look at DApp Radar, at the top used decentralized apps on Ethereum, you have Etherroll, which is another gambling app. People that were around during the big online poker apocalypse where all these sites were getting shut down and bank accounts were getting frozen and people were losing money, they know the risks associated with using those centralized platforms. And so I think more and more over time, we're going to see decentralized platforms where there's no risk that someone's going to go and seize a bank account. It's all on the blockchain. You don't have to worry about it. You can go and do your gambling there, whatever. The fourth major use case is international money transfer. If you've ever tried to send money internationally, either through MoneyGram or Western Union or one of these services, you know that the fees are high and it's weirdly slow. Why does this take so long? This is true. If you have a large amount of money and you're in London and you want to get that large amount of money to New York, the fastest way to do it is load it up in a suitcase, get on a plane, and fly to New York with suitcases full of cash. The system of transferring money internationally relies on way too many intermediaries who all have to trust each other and authenticate all of these transactions. It's really inefficient, it's really slow, it's really expensive, and this is going to get solved by crypto for sure. Now, I think this will evolve slightly differently than a lot of people would assume. I think when people talk about international money transfer, they picture it truly peer-to-peer where, someone in the United States wants to send money home to Mexico, and so they just do a Bitcoin or whatever crypto payment to their family member back home in Mexico. I think most likely we're going to see a system that kind of looks like Western Union, where there is a centralized authority who does all the know your customer and anti-money laundering stuff for you, but it's all on the back end is going to be blockchain technologies. So for Western Union and others, it's going to be like an innovate or die scenario where someone else is going to come with a better service with lower fees that's way faster. They're going to disrupt these old legacy dinosaurs. And I think this is going to be one of those things that is, for the most people using the service, it's going to be completely in the background. They're not going to care at all that the infrastructure is using blockchain to do their money transfer. All they know is that they're sending money from one place to another. It gets there fast and it doesn't cost very much. And even more, I think this use case has been bolstered by the very surprisingly friendly regulations that we've seen from all of these countries. I think, 4 or 5 years ago, people were really scared that governments were just going to completely crack down on crypto and just ban it outright. But we really see people aren't doing that. And so that's going to free up people to comply with the existing laws, AML and KYC and these things, create new businesses, disrupt those dinosaurs, and the people that are using them won't care. They'll just know it's better than what they used before. All right, and use case number 5 is as private digital money. So I'm not ashamed to admit the very first time I had heard of Bitcoin was, I think it was through a Vice article talking about the Silk Road, the now infamous drug selling website. And in that article, they talked about that people were using Bitcoin to make these payments. And I thought, that's really weird, and kind of brushed it off. I think Bitcoin was $30 at the time. Anyway, I happily ignored Bitcoin for probably another year at least until doing more research and, coming to the light and seeing the amazing innovation that it was. And while we today understand that Bitcoin itself isn't as private as maybe we thought it was back then, there are, competitors like Monero that are truly private and truly will allow you to make any exchange you want with anyone completely with no intermediaries and no one watching. So whether this is a good thing or not for the world, these dark net kind of drug markets still exist. I think some of them, or maybe all of them, are moving over to Monero because of its, more private nature. People buying drugs online. I think the libertarians out there will think that's great. I'm not quite so sure, but the point is that there's truly no way to stop it. If you're going to allow people to own Bitcoin or crypto of any kind, as soon as they can bridge that gap between the fiat and the crypto world, they can get right into the Moneros or the whatevers to start making these private purchases. So it's just going to continue to exist. It has to. And besides the use of these so-called privacy coins for making drug purchases, I think there's going to be other people out there that want to do blockchain-based transactions, but they want them to be private. If you imagine a company, let's say they're doing international money transfer and they're going to use a blockchain. They don't want to broadcast to everyone that they're transferring money from here to here at this date. They want a lot more privacy than that, and so there are going to be coins out there. Probably more and more will start adding privacy as a feature, and this is just going to be continually strengthened by the development that goes on these privacy coins that exist out there today. All right, use case number 6. I'm going to ask you to put the use case in the comments below. I know there's more than I talked about today. Let me know what you see as those long-term use cases that are going to be used for decades or possibly even centuries using blockchain technologies. Also, let me know what you think about doing more kind of news type content. I've struggled with that because I like making these like more kind of big picture, talk about trends and those kinds of things, but daily content sure would be easier to make. But at the same time, this space is pretty congested with people doing that, so I'm a little bit resistant to it. Honestly, I just haven't decided. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, like the video, subscribe, all that stuff. You know what to do. I'll see you later.